What's good, everyone? This your main correspondent, Alan Taylor, and I'm back in the broadcast room. And yes, this is what's going down. Listen, look, man, from this past election and things like that, Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, has been doing all types of stuff. They came up with crazy charges to charge Trump with, things like that. Yeah, they triumphed in that case. It is what it is. But now Letitia James is the one under fire.
So what the French coast is going to think about?
Low key, it's for the same thing that she, convicted Trump on. So now, okay, what is going on here? So we're about to dive off into this. Quarters, nickels, and dimes, people.
It's important that attorneys general representing our respective states stand up and enforce the rule of law. The president of these United States is not above the law.
No matter how rich, powerful, or politically connected you are, everyone must play by the same rules.
Please sue him for us.
Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the
And now the Trump Justice Department may be a pain in her you-know-what. The angle has obtained shocking allegations leveled by the Trump administration against New York Attorney General Letitia James. The Federal Housing Finance Agency has sent a criminal referral to the DOJ accusing James of mortgage fraud. In a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi, Director Bill Pulte says James appears to have falsified records in order to meet certain lending requirements and receive favorable loan terms. He cited a property in Virginia that she's allegedly claimed as her principal residence and a property in New York that she claimed as a 4-unit structure instead of the required, instead of a 5, which Pulte says means she was able to get a different type and more favorable loan. Joining me now is Jonathan Turley, Fox News contributor and law professor at GW University. Jonathan, mortgage fraud is rampant in the United States. There's all sorts of fraud that's rampant. There's disability fraud that they've vowed to crack down on in the Trump administration. But this is another thing that they have vowed to crack down on because it costs real money. Your reaction to these allegations?
Well, obviously, the irony is perfectly crushing. This is a person who prosecuted Trump for everything short of ripping a label off a mattress. And among the charges that were brought in New York, in not just the civil but the criminal case, was making false or misleading statements to financial institutions. And one of these sections, Section 1014 of the federal code, is prosecuted. It took me about 60 seconds of a search to find cases that the Department of Justice brought against people who falsely claimed that property was their principal residence in order to get loans. So this is well-tread areas for the Justice Department. As for James, if we apply the Letitia James standard that she created, there'd be little question here. This seems pretty straightforward. What the administration is saying is this was not her principal residence. In fact, as a New York elected official, she had to say that her principal residence was in New York. This was an out-of-state residence, but also
concentrate fire on the target. Enemy battleships.
They claim that in some of these forms, she actually states that her father is her husband in order to file as a married couple. So there's a lot of those questions. And
now, that's my question. Sorry about the commercial, but that's my question here. How in the hell are you filing your father as your husband? How do you think those records are not going to follow you for the rest of your life? You actually put on documentation that your father is your husband. What type of weird shit is that? Man, these people out here are treacherous. And then at the same time, though, too, this is the reason why everybody was losing their mind trying to make sure that Trump didn't get in office, because they didn't want their shit exposed like this. Hey, listen, yo, Yo, I guarantee you, if Kamala had won, we would not be hearing about Letitia James and fraud and mortgage fraud. We wouldn't be hearing about this. That shit would have been so swept up under the rug, it would have been ridiculous.
As you know, the Supreme Court just stated earlier in March in a case called Thompson that they want to see knowing false statements under sections like 1014, not just misleading statements. These are misleading statements. Either it's your principal residence or it's not.
Or it's not.
Either you're married to your father or he's your father. So they can this can satisfy the Thompson standard.
Yeah, well, Jonathan, we reached out to the DOJ, and they have no comment on this referral. We also reached out to Attorney General James, who did not respond to us either. So, again, everyone wants the best interest rate you can get. I understand that. But, you know, she's a lawyer. She knows that when you sign a mortgage application, that mortgage application, if you're borrowing money, if you're not borrowing money, nobody cares whether it's your principal residence, except, you know, where you file your taxes. But she decided to state that that was her principal residence, knowing it was not her principal residence. I didn't even know she had property. I mean, I guess she had property in Virginia and she has rental or investment property in New York. That's fine. But in the New York matter, to get the favorable rate, the building could only have 4 units. But for it looks like the entirety of this building, it had 5 units, meaning it was in violation of the actual loan agreement. And again, this is not a novel application of the law, Jonathan. As you stated during the persecution of Donald Trump, she was using all these novel applications of law to go after him. This isn't novel. This is a black and white issue. You either did or you didn't.
Hey, it is what it is at this point. So listen, look, we're going to go a little bit further here because, of course, this is crazy, people. So Letitia James is finally under fire. Listen, look, man, everybody's crashing out. So I want to hear what Governor Hochul had to say. Well, you know, what the governor had to say about Letitia James' situation. Here, hold on here. Let me make sure I got this straight.
He said he was going to go after his enemies. He declared he would be going after his enemies. And he's finally gotten down to maybe the J's on his list, you know, Tish James. He's going to keep going.
Governor Hochul was asked several questions about the allegations.
I'm going to allow her to have a chance to explain all this.
Attorney General James is focused every single day on protecting New Yorkers, especially as this administration weaponizes the federal government against the rule of law and the Constitution. She will not be intimidated by bullies, no matter who they are. So
don't that sound familiar? Weaponizing the system against their enemies. I mean, isn't that what they just did with Trump? Isn't that what they just did? Come on, people. Come on now. Come on, man. Isn't that what they just did? So the governor is going to be like, well, I'm just going to let this thing play out. I want to see what's going on. Yeah, you know what's going on, Governor. She know what's going on. Ain't nobody playing those games with her. All right, so we're going to go here now. We're going to check this one out and see what's going on in a little bit.
New York Attorney General Letitia James' office is blasting a federal criminal referral, potentially targeting the AG. The Department of Justice is being asked to investigate after the director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency claimed that James falsified records for home loans in Virginia. The referral says James listed a Virginia property as her principal residence in 2023, despite holding office in New York. Federal officials also say James misrepresented the number of units at a Brooklyn property and previously listed her father as a spouse for more favorable loans. A spokesperson for James released a statement reading, Attorney General James is focused every single day on protecting New Yorkers, especially as this administration weaponizes the federal government against the rule of law and the Constitution. She will not be intimidated by bullies, no matter who they are. Joining us for a closer look at the referral is legal expert Nicole Brunecki. Nicole, thank you for joining us. This referral comes after James launched a civil fraud trial into the Trump Organization. Do you anticipate action from the DOJ, including criminal charges?
Good afternoon, Cindy. Thank you for having me. I think we all remember the big, bold civil fraud case that she brought against Trump and prevailed. And she has built her entire career on exposing deception. So right now, it's a very problematic situation for her because she's being accused of the same act that she accused Trump of. And I think there is a high probability that they will go after her. Civil fraud is when you sign a declaration or make any statement to obtain some favorable outcome, some benefits of any type. So in this particular case, it would be more favorable mortgage terms. If that is proved, then that constitutes civil fraud.
So the referral mentions other mortgage fraud cases involving public figures in other parts of the country. Does that precedent hold any weight?
Precedents hold weight in terms of federal law. So if this is prosecuted as a federal act and these prior acts were also federal, then it definitely holds a precedent because it pertains to the same statutes.
Now, some of the allegations are decades old. Are there any statute of limitations on mortgage fraud cases?
Yes, there are statutes of limitations on all types of fraud cases because time passes and witnesses disappear, documents disappear, and memories wane. So
hold on. So people disappear and documents disappear. What are we saying here? So how are these documents disappearing? And see, this is the thing right here. The reason why they did not want Trump to get in office, man. They needed those documents to disappear. Like I previously said, if Trump hadn't got in office, those documents would have disappeared. But they didn't have time to get them. They didn't have time to get them to disappear. They didn't have time. All this is, what was going on with the election, things like that. They didn't have time to make this shit disappear.
There is a statute of limitation. I think that is why that last instance where she allegedly declared her husband, her father, her husband, that was mentioned the last in the letter because it's just, I think, inflammatory at this point because it was so long ago.
Okay, Nicole Bernecki, thank you so much for your insight. Stay with.
Hold on. All right, so you know what I'm saying, man. Wow. So Letitia James is basically getting her payback. Now, regardless of how everybody feels about it or anybody feels, things like that, Trump, this and that, regardless of your feelings, she did wrong too. She's been doing wrong. All these politicians are doing things at the side of their neck. All these politicians are taking money under the table and doing crazy things. So yeah, it's basically the pot calling the kettle black.
So what the French toast is there to think about?
That's basically what it is. It's the pot calling the kettle black. And shit, I mean, it just is what it is, man. This is the reason why these people are are screaming and shouting and, calling Trump this and that. And man, I'm telling you, man, listen, look, this is not over with. Letitia James is the first to hit the fan of the situation. No, not the first, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. The dominoes are falling, and Letitia James is just one of the dominoes that just fell. But it is what it is, though. Shout out to all my subscribers. Mad love to y'all. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like, share, subscribe button. Make sure you ring that bell to be notified whenever I decide to post things. Like I always say,
And that, my friends, is the bottom line.
That, my friends, is the bottom line.